What is up, everybody? This is John with Archer Film. Thanks for liking, subscribing, commenting, all that good stuff. All right, it's October. It is the month of horror. It's my favorite month, especially for films. I love horror films. So I've been on this Terrifier kick because the third one just came out. So I finally watched the first one a couple weeks ago. Check out my video on the first Terrifier. And then I watched the second one. Just released that video as well, my thoughts on it. And last night I watched the third one. So these are my thoughts on Terrifier 3. Now, if you've been listening to all of the news about it, the rumblings, the marketing has been pretty genius. Basically, they've been marketing horror films like this since movies began. Famously, William Castle, he made a movie called The Tingler and many other horrors where he would have ambulances and nurses standing by, and they would put that in the newspapers and say, people are, having heart attacks or whatever. And it was all a gimmick. With The Tingler, obviously, they had like these little buzzers underneath the seat. So when the big scary moments would happen, they would buzz the seats and freak people out. So when you hear marketing like this, that people are throwing up or getting nauseous or they had barf bags available or whatever, it's usually just a gimmick. But I'm going to be honest with you, Terrifier 3 did not disappoint. I've watched tons of horror. I like gore. I like all that stuff. It never bothers me. I'm delighted at the creativity of like really extreme gore. And I've only felt a little bit nauseous and a little like I was going to gag, like maybe twice in the movies. One was for Peter Jackson's Dead Alive, the first time I saw that. And then the other one was for Terrifier 3. I literally did feel like, even recalling the moment and the scene, I'm getting a little bit like I want to throw up. And it is absolutely true. If I had a little bit more delicate of a constitution, then, I may have had to like turn away from the screen. But it is true. It made me want to gag. So if you cannot take certain stuff, you may throw up during this movie. So it was not just a gimmick. It was actually true. And it is real. So fascinating to me. There's like two scenes. There's the shower scene, as you all will know. The carnage in that scene, again, it makes me queasy just thinking about it. It is so vulgar and relentless. I was like, wow, kudos. Because to me, again, it's not just the violence of it. I like to see the creativity of the gore. And like, I'm thinking, oh, wow, they had to make this whole prosthetic, blah, blah, blah. And that just fascinates me. I love that kind of stuff. And then the other scene that made me want to like almost gag was the biting scene towards the end. You kind of probably know what I'm talking about. A little Chuck Palahniuk reference there, maybe. So anyway, back to Terrifier 3. It is a much tighter film than the second one, in my opinion. The second one was a little bit rambling with its own little mythology stuff and setting up the protagonist. And I didn't mind the supernatural elements in this one because it made more sense, and it kind of delved deeper into the mythology of Art the Clown and how and why he exists and all that stuff. But Damien Leone, the writer-director, still has a problem with pacing. So he edits the films himself, and I think he would really benefit from another editor. There's just some scenes that are just they go on too long. And like the opening scene, it builds some nice suspense. We meet a family on Christmas, and the little girl says she hears someone on the roof. Well, obviously, we know the mom's going to be like, oh, it's Santa Claus or whatever, but we all know who it is and what's going to happen. And the suspense kind of builds and builds and then goes away. Like at some point, I felt like impatient. I'm like, okay, you built the suspense. Now something has to happen. And then the suspense would go on a little too long, a little bit longer than it should have. Not to mention the whole opening, it's like maybe 10, 15 minutes long, is absolutely irrelevant to the rest of the plot. The characters don't show up again. I don't know who they were. It's just, here's Art the Clown in his Santa Claus outfit, murders a family, then it's over. No idea what that's for, except to show Art. Then we go to the asylum and we catch up with the Gross-Face Killer. And then we follow her and Art as he shows up. Then they go to an old house and hang out for 5 years. And then some random, demolition guys show up and they kill them, get their power or whatever it is. And then it's like almost 30 minutes before we meet up with our protagonist, which is Sienna once again. And I'm like, I didn't even know she was the protagonist of this movie because it took too long to get to her. Now, in my opinion, Damien Leone, he needs to invest in some Save the Cat or some other screenwriting book on structure, because without showing your main protagonist in the first 10 minutes, you lose the audience. I am hyper aware of these things because this is what I do. And as you are watching the movie, you can sense that moment where there's no emotional tie to the events happening. It's just stuff happening. And that is when after the whole initial kill and all that stuff in the family, and then it goes to the asylum and we see Chris Jericho and all that stuff, and that goes on. And then immediately I'm getting bored. I'm getting uncomfortable because there's no main character to attach me to the moments. Like I said, you need a main character so we have an emotional tie to the events that are happening. In the original Scream, the opening with Drew Barrymore is 12 minutes long. That's it. It's perfect. 12 minutes. It's the inciting incident. And then we meet Sidney Prescott, okay? And we get on with her life. And it's not formula. This is form. We need to know who we're rooting for. Unless you're a psychopath and you're actually rooting for Art. He's not the main character. Okay, also some other issues plaguing Terrifier 3. So much time is spent away from Art as he runs around town murdering people. Like the character development with Sienna and her brother, it's a little bit better than the second one, but not by much. And honestly, the acting is still a little bit subpar with both of them, but slightly better than the second one. And honestly, the grotesque and gruesome carnage, it does make it fun. There's a lot of really fun stuff. And the end of the movie is a little less tough girl and more relentless violence and sort of, figuring out how to defeat Art and all that stuff. And I didn't mind it. I kind of liked it. I did not understand the Christmas angle. Now, I saw the Christian imagery and, the savior stuff, angels versus demons. We have the stigmata, we have the, crucifixes and all those things. I understand that, the angels on the packaging of her, present, and that Art is some sort of a demon, whatever. So I understood the imagery. And I'm glad that Leone is putting a little bit of more meaning into the part. Otherwise, the other meaning, I'm so there's a lot of emasculation going on. The male characters don't really serve much of a purpose except to die. And then, of course, there's the wicked shower scene, which is emasculation illustrated, I guess. So anyway, I didn't understand the Christmas angle, just to show him in a Santa Claus outfit, possibly. But for Halloween and horror, this came out during Halloween, October, and that's what I want to see. I want to see Halloween. Now, I'm hoping that, Terrifier 4 is not set during Easter. So lastly, the movie grossed so far 18 million. I am so excited about that. This is a truly independent horror film from a franchise that was built from the ground up with just the ingenuity and the hard work of these guys, especially of Damien Leone. And so I love that. I'm so happy about that. And this movie has done 18 million on a budget of 2.5, which is about on 2,600 screens, which is about 7,000 per screen average. That is a great per screen average. Put that in perspective, Smile 2 just came out, and it opened on 3,000 screens, and the previews are about the same as Terrifier 3, about 2.5 million, but their budget was 28 million. So think about that. So very impressive numbers, and the word of mouth for the Terrifier franchise just makes it not just another horror film. And honestly, I've not seen this kind of fervor for a horror franchise since the original Saw and, Jigsaw and its many sequels that always came around Halloween. It's you know what you're getting when you go into it, and you love it for that. I could not believe what I was seeing in the movie theater last night as far as gore, and people were loving it. At least I was. So anyway, he's working on number 4 now, and hopefully it'll come out next Halloween. And I'm very excited. The success of horror this year, whether it's indie or studio, makes me so happy, and I'm hoping a new renaissance of horror comes out like we saw in the early aughts. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you in the next video.